Chapter 7. Before the Crash. G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is Chapter 7 of my What If Hub Survived story. If you're new to this series, click the link in the description below to be taken to the playlist. Now let's begin the next chapter. When Lan, Hub, and Dr. Freud finally emerge from the police station after giving their statements, the sun is already beginning to set. The sky bursts in an array of burning reds, yellows, and oranges, in that way it always does before it begins to fade into the softer shades of twilight. All things considered, things could have gone a lot worse. Freud would be facing serious legal consequences, but not jail time. Not when the whole reason he sabotaged the waterworks was because World 3 were threatening his son. The first thing they see as they exit the station is Tori, pacing back and forth as he waits for his dad. Upon spotting his son safe and sound, Freud immediately begins to run to him, calling his name. Tori spins around at the sound of his father's voice, sprinting towards him. The father and son meet halfway, wrapping their arms around each other in a tight hug as they simultaneously try to comfort each other while quietly sobbing. Feeling awkward at witnessing the scene, the brothers look away and spot their mum. She's standing a little ways off, looking at both of them with a serious expression. The twins shuffle up to her sheepishly, bracing themselves for the lecture. When they reach her, there's a moment of awkward silence as none of them say anything. The boys are just about to stammer out an apology when Haruka pulls them into her arms, squeezing them both tight. In a hushed voice, almost as if she's afraid that speaking any louder will make them disappear, she tells them that she's so proud of them. But please, for my sake, if not your own, don't make this a habit. Lan and Hub embrace their mother back, promising that they'll try. But as Haruka pulls back in order to have a quick word with Freud, the twins exchange a look and a silent understanding. They can both feel it. This isn't the end. Meanwhile, in a lab in an unknown location, an old scientist stands behind his desk, glaring at the three individuals in front of him as his assistant stands to his right. The three individuals, a woman with pink hair tied in ponytails, a man with a goatee, and another man covered in light bulbs and a painfully wide smile all stand silently. While monsters and demons in their own rights, each of them having done heinous things in the name of their organization, they still remain silent and at attention under the glare of their employer. Wiley, the scientist-turned-terrorist, is the one thing that all three of them fear. After all, he is completely unhinged. None of them want to see what would happen if they incurred his wrath. All of our plans in Den City have been failing lately. Our funding has also taken quite a few hits. So tell me, just what excuses do you have? The three individuals suppress a simultaneous flinch at the sheer malice in his voice. Mr. Match is the first to find his voice, apologizing to their leader for the mistakes. He begins to explain what exactly happened, but trails off, not entirely sure how to word it without sounding absolutely pathetic. Wiley, however, is not in a patient mood, and snaps at his subordinate to speak up. A cold sweat breaking out across his back, Match explains that there was a young net battler that got in his way. Taking pity on her colleague, Maddie speaks up in his stead, explaining that she'd run into him too, except she's not sure which of the boys she ran into was the battler. Match asks her what she means. Maddie explains that she ran into two boys about middle school age in the waterworks. They looked like twins. Was one of them wearing a bandana? Yes, that's the battler. Wiley cuts them off with a sharp command before asking if they're really trying to tell him that their elite World 3 Navis were defeated by a middle schooler and his Navi. Maddie immediately switches to damage control, telling her boss that neither the Navi nor the boy were ordinary. The Navi itself was incredibly strong. She also saw some of the chips that the boy had been using during the trek through the Waterworks network. They were chips that can only be found in the Darknet. The three subordinates relax slightly as Wiley's eyes glint with interest. He asks if they're telling him that the boy is a Darknet denizen, because if that's the case, then maybe they should try to recruit him. Maddie admits that she doesn't know, but she's pretty certain that his name is Lan. Clownman overheard the Navi talking to someone by that name. The subordinates all feel a shiver of primal fear streak down their spines as something dark flashes in Wiley's eye. Turning away from the trio, he instructs them to leave. Not wanting to tempt fate, they begin to walk to the door, resisting the urge to run. Before they reach it, Wiley calls over his shoulder to Maddie. Once he's sure he has her attention, he reminds her of her next mission in Den City, and that failing this one won't end well for her. Trying and failing to keep the fear out of her voice, Maddie tells him that she understands before leaving the room. Meanwhile, Wiley stands behind his desk thinking to himself, Lan, and the boy is a twin. Could it be? The day after the waterworks incident, Lan and Hub walk into class, still exhausted. Reaching their desks, Lan folds his arms on top of his desk like a pillow and puts his head down, hoping to catch a few more minutes before the class starts. He's barely put his head down when the others in the room start whispering and muttering to each other. The sound of noisy curiosity is soon followed by the sense of someone standing next to him. He bites back a groan as he starts to lift his head. He swears if this is Dex wanting another net battle. His thoughts are cut off and he's suddenly wide awake as he sees who's standing next to his desk. Tori! Lan blinks in confusion, trying to figure out just why the other boy would be standing right near his desk like this, especially since they're not even in the same class. Before Lan can ask why he's here, Tori bows deeply and gives him a heartfelt thank you. The phrase Lan.exe has stopped working flashes through Lan's head as he stammers out a question of why he's thanking him all of a sudden. Standing up straight, Tori explains that he's already thanked Hub for his part in what happened yesterday, but he hadn't had a chance to thank him. If it weren't for the twins, who knows what would have happened to him and his dad, let alone everyone else affected by the water cutting off. While Lan is stunned into silence, Tori reaches into the pocket of his hoodie and pulls out a PET that looks oddly familiar. After a moment, the screen comes on, revealing Iceman, who greets Lan with a smile. Smiling, Tori explains that his dad gave Iceman to him last night. He's not going to be allowed to have a custom Navi until his probation is done, and he also wanted Tori to have a little extra security and support. He looks at Lan, his eyes glinting with shy hope as he asks if Lan would be interested in having a net battle later. Lan suddenly feels like he just had a rug pulled out from under him as he asks Tori if he's sure he wants to have a net battle with him. At Tori's certain nod, Lan isn't entirely sure what to say, other than, okay then. As Tori walks out of the classroom, grinning in triumph, Lan turns in his chair to look at Hub. Did that really just happen? Hub snorts before grinning at Lan. It sure did. Congratulations. Lan really isn't sure what the congratulations is for, but he decides to just roll with it. More than likely, Tori will get bored or be told all of the rumors about him and start avoiding him. Everyone does. But to his surprise, Tori comes over to talk to him the next day too, and the day after that, and the day after that. And not just him, the other kids in his class start talking to him too. Mostly Yai, who talks about homework and assignments, and Dex, who always wants to either ask about where Lan found her particular chip or to test out a new advanced program he discovered. It's also weird and more than a little overwhelming. Eventually, he decides to pull Mail to the side to ask just what is going on. Why is everyone suddenly acting nice to him? Mail's eyes are a little sad at his question, and she asks if it's really that strange that people want to be nice to him. Lan scowls, not sure how to answer that one. Mail sighs before telling Lan about the rumors she heard. Apparently, after Tori got back to class, some of his classmates had tried to tell him to stay away from Lan, that he was a delinquent who got into fights. Apparently, there was a rumor that Lan had sent a whole class to the hospital back in 3rd grade. That last one renders Lan speechless. Where the heck did they get that from? Before they can get sidetracked, Mail continues, explaining how Tori had supposedly snapped back at his whole class. He'd asked if any of them had even tried talking to Lan themselves, or if they just heard the rumors and didn't ask questions. He'd straight up told the whole class that Lan had saved not only his dad, but all of Dentown during the waterworks incident. He'd told the whole class to watch what they say from now on, because he won't let any of them badmouth the people that saved his dad. Lan groans and puts his face in his hands. Tori really shouldn't have done that. Now he's going to get ostracized by the whole school too. Mail rolls her eyes, asking Lan to remember why he'd come up to her in the first place. Lan raises an eyebrow in confusion before he remembers the weird way the other kids have been acting. Wait, are you trying to tell me that that's because Tori convinced them that I'm some kind of hero or something? At Mail's smug nod, Lan can't help but facepalm. This can only end so well. Later that day, Lan tells Tori that it would be in his best interest to stop defending him to his classmates and to stop hanging around him. The other kids at this school decided years ago that he's trouble, and it's only a matter of time before something happens and they decide to blame him for it. If Tori is still defending him when that happens, they'll all turn on him too. Tori scowls at Lan, asking if he really seems like the kind of person that would just ditch his friend when things got tough. The word friend makes Lan's eyes widen and his whole body go stiff. Did he really just... friend? Well, yeah. Wait, aren't we friends? I don't know! I've never had a friend besides Sal before! Well, I say we're friends. So, stop telling me to stop hanging out with you. Later, when Lan tells Hub that he somehow ended up with another friend and explains his conversation with Tori, his twin bursts out laughing. Rolling on his bed as he struggles to breathe from laughing so hard, he asks if it really took him this long to realize that. Lan's cheeks go red as he tells him to shut up. Rockman's PET goes off with an email alert while Hub is still cackling. Reaching up, he blindly grabs it before tossing it to Lan, asking him to read it for him as he can't see with his eyes full of tears right now. Lan huffs in annoyance before opening up the email. It's one from Mail, asking if he wants to go to Dentown with her tomorrow and help her look for a birthday present for Yai. There's also something about a mission MLSF? The PET is snatched from his hands the moment that is mentioned. Hub's laughter completely gone now. Lan looks at Hub with narrowed eyes. Hub pretends not to notice as he frantically types out a reply message, his face one of panic and mortification. Lan considers asking what mission MLSF is, but after a moment of consideration, he decides against it. The last time he got involved with one of their little missions, he ended up grounded for a week. No, he's staying as far away from their secret agent antics this time, thank you! Instead, he decides to ask when he and Mail became such close friends with Yai to start buying her birthday presents. Hub looks at him with a raised eyebrow. She's your friend too. Since when? Exasperated, Hub reminds Lan of all the times she's come up to talk to him about school in the last few days. All of the times she's given him a compliment on his work. He also brings up the time she called his name in roll call and then woke him up because Lan had fallen asleep at his desk because he decided to pull an all-nighter for the test they had that day. Lan's eyes widen in shock and realization while Hub sighs, calling him hopeless. You mean to tell me that both Tori and Yai have been my friends for the better part of a month and no one thought to tell me? Who's next? Dex? Hub's silence speaks volumes. Lan spins on his heel and flops into his bed. He tells Hub to enjoy his trip to Dentown with Mail because he's going to be spending all of tomorrow in bed with an existential crisis. The next day, Hub gets up early, preparing quickly to go to Dentown. Just as he's about to leave the room, Lan calls out from his bed, still half covered in blankets. Peeking a hand out from under his blanket cocoon, he points over at the desk, telling Hub to grab a couple of zenny from his PET. Get something for him to give to Yai too. Hub smirks as he goes over to the PET to do as asked, asking what happened to him having an existential crisis. Lan huffs and shifts under the blankets, telling his brother that he's still having one, but if people are going to start deciding they're his friends all of a sudden, he might as well act the part. But he is still not getting out of this bed today. Hub snickers as he walks back to the door, telling Lan to enjoy his crisis. A little later, he stands out front of the metro station, waiting for Mail. Hub frowns as he checks the clock on Rockman's PET. It's not like Mail to be late. Thankfully, it doesn't take much longer for her to arrive, running, looking frazzled and slightly out of breath. Hub asks her if she's okay and she nods, still catching her breath. Once her breathing evens out, she gives him an apologetic look. She explains that she's late because she was arguing with her mum. It seems that she was supposed to deliver something to her grandma today and completely forgot. Hub gives a dramatic gasp. Mail, little miss always on time. Miss, do not forget your homework. Forgotten errand? Alert at the presses! Mail shoves him lightly at his teasing, rolling her eyes. She apologizes for the sudden change of plans, but asks if he can go ahead to Dentown and look for a place to get Yai's present. They can talk about the other thing once she gets there. Still grinning, Hub agrees, waving Mail off before using the metro to head to Den City. While he's on the train, he receives an email from Mr. Freud telling him that he's gotten him and Lan added to a mailing list for the official NetBattler network. Technically, since he's still on probation, he shouldn't be pulling strings with old friends like this, but after everything that Lan and Hub did for him and his son, it's the least he can do. Especially since it seems they've become magnets for World 3. At least this way, they'll be able to keep abreast of the situation. The first letter he receives from the mailing list is one written by the boy from the waterworks incident, Chord. It's mostly a report on the types of viruses that were found in waterworks during the incident. But then he shifts into talking about a pair of suspicious elementary school students that were running around. They were questioned by police and there were no grounds to detain them, but he still has his suspicions about one of them. Hub rolls his eyes after reading that. He'd be willing to bet money that he knows exactly who Chord is talking about. When he arrives at the Den City station, he gets another email, this one from Mail. She's on her way, but she's needing to take the bus, so it'll still be a while. She suggests that they try to find an antique shop, since Yai's been collecting them recently. She also sends him a Roll 2 chip as an apology. Shrugging, Hub begins to look around for an antique shop. While walking around, he spots a familiar face standing outside the summer school building. Waving, he calls out to Ms. Mari, only to stop when he realizes that she's not Ms. Mari. Their faces and builds are similar, but the woman's skin is slightly paler, like she hasn't gotten quite as much sun as Ms. Mari. Her hair is also a slightly lighter shade of brown. The woman smiles at him, amusement glinting in her eyes. She asks if he happens to be one of her sister Marie's students. Stunned, Hub nods, completely stunned by what he's seeing. The woman laughs, introducing herself as Yuri, Ms. Mari's twin sister. She then looks Hub up and down before asking if he is one of the twin brothers her sister is always talking about. That comment gets Hub's attention and he asks what Ms. Mari has been saying about him and Lan. Yuri waves her hand casually, telling him not to sound so worried. It's all good things. According to her sister, he and his brother are some of her best students. She is curious though. Hub's heart sinks as he braces himself for the question he knows is coming. Are you the one that's constantly putting on the tough guy act, or is that your brother? That was not the question he expected. The unexpectedness of the question causes him to laugh as he tells her no, that's 100% his brother. Yuri grins back, her eyes glittering with satisfaction at getting a laugh out of the boy. She then asks what brings him to Den City, since she can't imagine it was simply to see her lovely face. Being reminded of his task, he tells her that he's looking for a birthday present for a friend, and asks if she knows of any antique shops. After a moment of thought, she points him towards Block 2. If he goes to the block from here, there's a really nice antique shop just across the road and to the left. Thanking her for her help, Hub heads off in the direction she pointed. It doesn't take him long to find the shop. He pulls out his PET, preparing to send a message to Mail, when he catches something out of the corner of his eye. Something's not right. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. Join me next time as Hub has to deal with one heck of a traffic problem. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.